speaking now about the two multi-million rand desalination plants that were to help avert a now forgotten day zero scenario, basically have stopped working. And interestingly enough, water activists from the civic group Stop CoCT visited the two sites last week and noticed the silence emanating from the Strandfontein plant. But joining us online this morning is Sandra Dickson, administrator of dearcapetown.co.za website, an independent platform which educates the public on the importance of public participation. Sandra, good morning, and once again, thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning.
Wow, a few months ago, everything was anything about the desalination plants and all the money invested into getting some of them up and running, only to see them a few months later being absolutely silent. What did you and the team notice when you headed down to the Strandfontein plant?
Well, I'll first tell you why we went there. We've been watching the city's water reports every Monday and doing calculations from those reports. And we noticed that the water augmentation dropped from about 50 million litres per day.
Ridiculous and criminal as well. But, you know, in terms of this, who do we hold accountable? Of course, we say the city, but it seems to be something sort of defunct when it comes to, you know, these operations that we hear about.
Well, the desalination plants, there's nothing wrong with them. In itself. As we went there, we saw the pipes leading from the sea. We saw the pipes going to the reticulation system. The plant is neat. So we are not accusing the system that the plant itself isn't working. What we are accusing the city of is the specifications that they put out for these plants and the types of filters that are used in these plants. The specifications did not cover, or if it covered it, the company that put in the filters are in breach of contract. So it is actually really grey, because the reasons given for the plants not working is turbidity in the water, high waves, wind, algae blooms. Those are external things, and the city also go along and say that these things had been present in the...
For comment from the city side, joining us this morning is MACO member for Waterway Services and Energy, Xanthea Limberg. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us, Councillor.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting me.
Now, of course, you know, a lot of conversation around the fact that these two plants, more especially the Strandfontein plant, is not in production. Could we have some clarity with regards to that?
So I think that there is an impression that the city's desalination plants have not been working at all due to some functional failure, and this is simply not the case. The operations of the desalination plants in both Strandfontein and Monroe BC have at times been affected by algae blooms and the high turbidity of the sea. So in the case of the algae blooms, this is a natural occurrence, and high turbidity in the ocean is normally caused by bad weather and sea conditions such as strong winds or big swells. And algae blooms specifically cause quite a lot of damage to the sensitive membrane filtration systems of the desalination plant, while high turbidity affects the pre-treatment process of the desalination plant, which can result in reduced production by the plant. So halting operations temporarily is a precautionary approach and measure which the contractors take while ongoing and monitoring the technical impact of the plant. So in the case of Strandfontein, the plant was producing little to no water over the period of the 1st to the 7th of November due to high turbidity, and then it resumed its operations and produced its full capacity. The Monroe BC plant could not operate for 4 days during that same period, also because of high turbidity, and after resuming the production, both plants had to end up being temporarily stopped on the 16th of November due to algae bloom. Otherwise, the plants have been fully functioning. The algae bloom has dissipated in the False Bay area, and as well as Strandfontein plant, this is also in production. It must also be noted that the city hasn't paid for any sort of capital outlay of building or constructing the plant. This was covered by the contractors. The city only pays for water that is actually produced and injected into the city's water reticulation system. And therefore, the temporary suspension of the plants during those few days is not for the city's account, as has been claimed by some. And the contractors have been appointed to run the desalination plant as part of the city's water emergency water augmentation scheme, and are contractually required to deliver drinking quality standard water. And so if there's anything within the environment that impacts that, they have to temporarily stop producing or injecting water until the conditions return to normal, and this has been happening over a minimal period of time. Other than that, the plant has been in full production.
Now, of course, civil society organizations as well as the general public critiques would come out and say, but wasn't the city, prepared in terms of thinking, okay, if an algal bloom does take place, in terms of the water situation, what then happens to these desalination plants?
Well, I think that it would not be wise for the city to continue or the contractor to continue operating the plant if there are key conditions that could damage the membrane technology. And so it's not only in the interest of the contractor but the city as well to ensure that precautionary measures are taken. And these plants collectively were obviously initiated to deal with an emergency scenario and will be running for a period of 2 years. But overall they make a relatively minimal contribution to our overall water supply. Collectively, these two plants produce 14 million litres of water per day. In the context of Cape Town, where we are using more than 500 million litres of water per day, when these plants are not operating, it is not a massive impact on the city's water security or water demandability, and therefore we don't believe that it is in any way detrimental to the city's ability to provide water. Once again, the city only pays for water that has been produced, so during the times that the plant has not been operating for those few days that I've mentioned, the city does not incur any cost.
All right. Also online with us this morning is Sandra Dickson of Dear Cape Town. Sandra, your concluding remarks for this morning. Sandra, go ahead.
Hi, I would ask Xanthea to make the service level agreement with the contractors available to the public, as well as a full log of the daily production and the uptime of the plant since the plant started operating. And then my very last remark is that if the plants are costing the city really as little as what she says, why are we paying these huge tariffs? What are we paying for? Because if the plants aren't delivering and the water augmentation had not reached the 130 million litres per day and more, which we were promised and what we are paying for, what are we paying for? Because our water is still coming through the same pipes from the same dams as it did prior to the drought, except the city has raised the tariff to a level where the people just can't pay it.
Sure. Thank you so much, Sandra. Councillor, we have 60 seconds to go. Your final comments.
So I think much of the information that Sandra is requesting is already available on the city's website. The city developed a water outlook document where we provide an analysis of production of water coming from the different non-alternative or alternative non-surface solutions, such as the desalination plant. And many of the other information that she's required is available on the city's tender portal as well. In respect to tariffs, I think it's important to state that the city has not only invested in desalination. There is another desalination plant in VNA, but there is also our continuous work into drilling into the aquifers. In the case of Table Mountain Group aquifers, this is a rock-embedded aquifer and quite intensive to drill into. We are also investing in wastewater for reuse plants, where we're taking wastewater and treating that to further standards for drinking purposes. And so the city has done a range of other things other than just desalination.
Yeah.
And then on top of this, we have to ensure that we maintain and upgrade our existing and very expensive water and sanitation recirculation infrastructure. The tariffs goes towards funding all of those things.
Councillor, very quickly before you go, Sandra has indicated that they would like to engage with the city. Will you be open to engaging with Dear Cape Town?
Yes, the city is open to engaging to any public or other stakeholders.
All right. All right, Councillor Xanthea Limberg, thank you so much for your time, as well as Sandra Dickson. Thank you so much for your insight on the matter. We do appreciate it, ladies. Have a good day further.